thought we could take a look at Tesla's auto business once the new factories are ramped up to a level roughly where we're at max capacity with all factories existing buildings, and take a look at what the stock price might reach by that stage. What I'm dealing with here in reality is a company whose forecasts appear to be unbelievable. But I thought the same years ago, before the stock price went up about 20-fold. Back then I kept doing the numbers. If Tesla can sell this many cars at this much profit, then they're going to be worth this much. It looked highly possible the company was going to give me at least 10 times return within 10 years. It just had to be, every scenario I played. But this was before the Model 3 had even launched, when Tesla really was just a car company. We didn't have any consideration about the energy side of the business or Tesla making their own batteries, let alone robotaxis, level 5 FSD, robotics or AI. I kept running so many scenarios. The numbers kept coming into the hundreds of billions of dollars in sales, and this was when we expected there to be competition. We were hearing about the competition coming, and actually there was a surprising competitor at an early stage. There was the Jaguar E-Pace, which is not mentioned very often. This came out as early as 2017, and if a company like Jaguar could launch a nice EV that quickly, then obviously others will follow. Of course, I hadn't experienced the Model 3 yet, as they weren't yet launched, but my hunch was that it was going to be everything Tesla said it was. Of course, there were many other stressful times hodling Tesla stock, like production hell, or when the stock dropped from about $70 to around $36 post-split price. This was particularly stressful when I had convinced my father to put a reasonable proportion of the retirement into Tesla. It was alright for me, I was still young enough to recover, but affecting your father's retirement because of a stock you cajoled him to invest in doesn't feel great when he's lost about half his money. Anyway, I kept running through these numbers, and with my father too. We would go for a walk every day and run through the scenarios. Both of us have been in business just about all our lives and know how to run the right numbers. We kept getting the same answers. What were we missing? Why is the market not capable of calculating this? Then we had all these successful shorters who were supposedly really smart and clever and predicted the demise of the likes of Enron. So who are we to think we know better than them? But we stuck with our gusto and rode it through. Now we're in a similar situation again. It looks highly likely Tesla is going to achieve over 40% gross margins at their new factories. I think within time even higher, especially if you factor in more economies of scale, FSD and other subscription services. And I'm also pretty sure within soon enough time that Berlin and Texas will quadruple annual capacity to about 4 million vehicles a year. That's an additional 3 million annual units from where we're at today. Well, we aren't even going to see 1 million units this year. In other words, we're talking about over at least 4 times the run rate in just a couple of years' time, I hope. Now, in business, every % you can improve on your gross margin pretty much adds to the net profit margin, excluding tax. So if you have a product that has 30% gross margin and 15% net profit margin, and you improve that gross margin from 30% to 40%, then that likely takes your net profit margin to 10%. Again, excluding tax. Okay, so we are potentially going from a gross margin of around 30% or so to 40% with the vehicles from these new factories, and 4 times the current capacity. Again, I talked to my father about this too, and it's not adding up. The stock price is sitting relatively low. Now we have a net income for Q4 which is going to come in close to around $2.3 billion, which annualized equates to $9.2 billion, which at the time of this video with a Tesla stock price of $1.1 trillion gives us an annualized PE ratio of 118. Now, bear in mind, we also just calculated that Tesla's net profit may possibly increase 66% from around 15% to 25% with these new margins. And on top of that, we could see 4 times the capacity. And okay, it may take Tesla 2 or even 3 years to reach full capacity in these new factories. But don't also forget, in addition to those, next year alone, we may see 50% more production just from Shanghai and Fremont too. But as far as batteries are concerned, if they are able to average 60 kilowatt hours per vehicle, which I think might be about the average for the 4680 batteries too, then for a run rate of 4 million a year, that's only 240 gigawatt hours of batteries a year. Tesla are targeting a 4680 battery run rate of 100 gigawatt hours a year by the start of 2023, just in-house, and securing twice as many batteries for 2022 as 2021, which is perhaps another 140 gigawatt hours total. 100 plus 140 is 240 gigawatt hours a year run rate at the start of 2023. Although Tesla suppliers are also planning on ramping up their battery production too. For example, CATL is going to build a new fab near Giga Shanghai with an 80 gigawatt hour a year capacity. Bottom line, is it's highly possible Tesla will have sufficient battery supply by 2023 to cater to more than 4 million vehicles in 2023, over 4 times as many as will be produced in 2021. Now, 4 times the sales with 66% more net profit margin means 6.5 times the total net profit we're seeing now. If we take that PE ratio of 118 that we came up with earlier as an indicator as to how Tesla will do in Q4, and then divide it by 6.5, then we get a PE ratio of 18. In other words, if the stock price hasn't moved from today's price by 2024, just with Tesla's car business alone, we should see Tesla at a PE ratio of 18. Except that's not all. This factors in today's OPEX relative to the number of units sold. The more Tesla increase volume in production, then the lower the OPEX becomes per vehicle too. This is economies of scale. Remember this, Tesla didn't even sell 1 million vehicles this year. Even Mercedes will probably sell about 2.5 million vehicles this year, or Volkswagen around 10 million. Tesla is still very small in quantity of scales when compared to the legacy OEMs, which means Tesla is barely feeling the effects of the economies of scale yet. If you think Tesla have gotten their costs relatively low now, then imagine how much better they are when we hit 3 or 4 million sales a year. And this might be what it takes for the market to really understand how impressive Tesla's auto business will be, except Tesla are not close to stopping there, and will likely increase that rate another 5-fold before the end of the decade. Then start to think of the economies of scale this company can achieve by then, and how much more enormous investments can be justified in expansion. We're talking unprecedented scales. Henry Ford really is the closest that comes to mind in history. When you reduce the OPEX, then net profits could be as high as 8 times what they are today, which with a PE ratio of only 50 is a 3 times return on the stock price today. And we're only factoring in the auto business and not really any of the major FSD or robotaxi potential. And if Tesla has demonstrated this much successful growth by then, a P ratio of 50 probably seems a little bit low, which would be around a $3,000 stock price. So is it instead possible that Tesla might hit more like $5,000 by 2024 or maybe 2025? Well, I think so, and I'm not the only one. But bottom line, it looks like these factories have at least that capacity, and it looks like Tesla have a full path to achieving the required number of batteries in order to cater to said capacity. Again, this is me just trying to look at various ways of valuing this company at arbitrary points in time, when and if specific events occur. In this event, Tesla reached a 4 million unit a year capacity with sufficient battery supply and obviously enough demand that every vehicle was sold. It doesn't include energy, FSD, or any of the other potentials. This is just the auto business side of things, which is the most tangible aspect of the business to value, as we have so much more information about what Tesla are doing with it. Of course, there could be negative scenarios too, and admittedly, I don't simulate them. Aside from them not being as fun or exciting, I feel like the above scenario is inevitable, and any negative scenario will simply delay this inevitability slightly. For example, if there are severe chip shortages, then maybe it delays this by 6 months or even a year, and we aren't there until 2025 instead. But that will still be a really good return on your investment, even by 2025, especially compared to the S&P. But just bear in mind, there are always risks in investing, and there may be all sorts of black swan events that crop up over that period too. It is not guaranteed money. Bottom line, we're all just waiting to double or triple our investment, and I can provide us some videos to keep us entertained and excited while we wait, whilst also delivering the confidence and conviction to maintain the path in case you start to doubt your investments and start to consider selling, similar to when we saw the stock down at $550 to $600 earlier this year, and I showed you I was buying leaps and put my money where my mouth is to help your confidence. Of course, I never suggested you actually buy any yourself, as I don't know your financial position, but those leaps are now up over 300%. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.